welcome to Meow Mix, the Carolina Panthers podcast. My name is Steven,
My name is Jerry.
and we are here to talk about the preseason week one game. A few days late. Uh, we had, so, it's always something, Jerry. It's
It's
always
all.
something.
I got sick. I actually called out of work, and work called me back saying it's an emergency. You don't get to be sick
Mm-hmm.
today. So that's kind of how my week was going. So
Yep. I remember that day quite vividly.
I do too. Trust me. Unfortunately, I've got a little one that's all right, but my wife is sick, so she's bouncing around the
Yep,
office right now, playing
yep.
keyboard.
My little ones are sick, and my wife is not sleeping very well as a result. So, yeah, life gets in the way sometimes, but we definitely wanted to talk about this game and talk about a few minor pieces of news that have happened since the game. So, yeah, I mean, let's just kick it right off, Jerry. This this felt way
This this
disappointing.
this game made me have such PTSD from last year and the year before that it was like, really, we can't show anything. Like, no good, no good possessions. I mean, again, defense, I felt, especially the guys who will make the roster, I felt like they played really well. We'll talk about, the goods and the bads, but for the most part, offense wise, there was not much good going on. Uh, Plummer did not look poised.
No.
Mingo and Terrace Marshall Jr. dropped his two best passes in the first quarter. I thought both of those passes, I was like, oh, okay, he might have something. And then
Hmm.
the longer he played, the more I was like, stupid mistake, stupid mistake. No
Yeah,
presence in the
and
pocket.
just for full transparency, it was rainy, right? The early
Mm-hmm.
part of that game where those two drop passes occurred. Uh, I certainly think the Mingo one had something to do with the rain. Um, Although maybe the Terrence Marshall one was more rain related, as
Yeah.
the Mingo one was like right in his breadbasket. He should have caught that pass. But no, no real starters playing on offense. Really, no real starters playing on defense other than Dane Jackson. So this was a game where they had a very a plan as to not play any starters, probably not show any real plays that they're going to be running during the regular season, things like that. Um, that being said, it was just so depressing to watch. Nothing happened. They didn't score until the very end.
And it was a
Um,
field goal. It wasn't.
and it was a field goal, right? And that was with Jake Luton, who's likely not even going to be on the practice squad, right? I mean, just a guy that they came in to fill a roster spot. Um, the running backs didn't look good. Now, Boone was our starting running back in this game, so it didn't even have Blackshear in this game. Um, so again, likely no one who played running back is going to make the team. And then, defensively, I thought they looked pretty good up until sort of, the later part of the second half.
Yeah.
I thought they stood up well. Pass rush, nothing to write home about, but a couple of guys got there. Um, but yeah, it was just, again, it felt like watching last year's team. Just no creativity on offense, not be able to get the ball down the field at all. Um, just nothing. And it was
The
disappointing.
the O line looked like garbage. I know
Yeah.
the money we spent, they weren't playing, but still, it
Right.
was it was still worrisome that these are the next guys up. Yes, they were R2s going against some ones and some twos against on the defense of New England, but if the O line gets hurt, which it seems to get hurt every year, that's not a
They're
knock
already
on
hurt.
those players.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna have to play, and they did not look ready.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my goodness, just
Yeah.
all real quick. I guess should we go over PFF grades for the O line here real
Yeah.
quick?
Sure.
Chandler Savala actually graded out the second highest on offense. So
Right.
good for him. I
Yeah.
mean,
Maybe he's learned some things in the offseason and
yeah.
gotten stronger or something. That's great.
Oh, Ricky Lee was third, but he had a 65. third was our highest offensive, or third highest on PFF grade. Then we're
That's
gonna
for
go
the
down.
whole offense, right?
Yes,
Not just the offensive line. That's the whole offense.
whole offense. Badara Traya played 25 snaps. He had a 52. The worst player was Cade Mays,
Hmm.
and he was injured during the game.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Andrew Ryan, Jeremiah, Brady Christensen. I'm not going to read off those guys' stats just because they're probably not going to make. Brady Christensen played 54 snaps. His grade was a 50.9.
And I thought it was odd that they didn't have him playing left tackle. They had him playing guard.
That
And I would have liked to have seen him play left tackle because that's where we've seen him have the most success in the NFL on the offensive line and in college. I mean, that's what he played in college. I would have liked to have seen that. Why not in this
especially
scenario?
since you just put that money into the guard center that Brady
Hmm.
Christensen isn't going to have a real chance to start guard spot. I
Right.
get getting him familiar with that spot, but I also think Cade Mays may be a better option at guard, even though he was last. But I'm hypothetically, but I don't trust Ricky Lee even with his third highest grade of 65
Yeah.
over there on that left side. I mean that first sack was him getting blown off. Like
Yeah.
he looked he looked like he couldn't play out there against the big boys, and that's not really too mean, but I mean, he has to get better if he's going to actually see the field.
Yeah. And again, we're hoping that most of these guys don't see the field that much.
That
But
sounds so mean, but yeah.
yeah, well, based on the way they performed, I think it doesn't sound. I think it's just the truth. But I don't know. And again, preseason week one, like I'm not upset about the fact that we lost the game, right?
No.
I mean, who cares? Um, but you do want to see some spark of something.
Yes.
And let's just go ahead and get into some of the things that we did like, right? Because we've harped enough on how bad everything looked, and we hope that Saturday things look better. But um, the things that we did like, right? And I'll just kind of kick it off with my favorite position on the offense, tight end. I thought Jordan Matthews was pretty fun to watch, impressive. Like he made the biggest plays of the game on offense, and I think there could be a spot for him. Let's say if Ian Thomas can't get back healthy or something happens with Tommy Tremble and he can't, start the season. I think there's a possible spot on this roster for Jordan Matthews.
I 100% agree with that. I was thinking that he had no chance to really make the roster.
Mm-hmm.
Most wide receiver turned tight end in their 30s don't make it. I mean,
Right.
just in
And he's been
general.
bouncing around trying to
Yeah.
find his spot for a couple of years.
But I think if this team wants a receiving tight end, they just released Steven Sullivan right before this game, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I think he offers you that opportunity. Now, his run blocking is not going to be there. His blocking's just not. He's a converted wide receiver. But I think you could get him as a lower tier tight end that may be able to give you some production in the receiving aspect of it. So yeah, I think he can. He could be that third, fourth guy. You got Trent, well, fourth because Jatavion Sanders is here. But
Right. Right.
just like the preseason, he kind of slipped my mind for a little bit because I didn't hear his
Mm-hmm.
name.
Yeah. Well, he's been mainly playing with the third string in training camp and everything. Not making a ton of splash plays there, but he did announce himself in the preseason game, and I hope he gets some more opportunities because, like I said, having a tight end who is able to make plays in the receiving game, it just is important. It's just important in the NFL. All the good teams have them, right? And you see some of these teams drafting these receiving tight ends high in the draft because they understand that it is important. So I'm hoping that, and I'm not saying that Jordan Matthews is going to change our offense. I'm not saying that at all.
No.
But just having that option, is so important for a young quarterback, especially.
Yeah. Going on, staying positive here. I think we may have seen the edge rusher that's going to stand out to be that
Hmm.
third guy. Iku Lieta he had a phenomenal game in my eyes.
Yeah.
Like, he was all over the ball. He had reminiscence of that Frankie Louvu preseason where I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this guy is kind of a little spark plug. Okay, I like it. Make some plays. Second-year player, for us. So it would not shock me beginning of the year if one of them can't go if Leota was the other edge rusher.
Yeah, I mean, he had a nice hit on the quarterback. I'm just looking him up here.
He had 3 hurries, 2 tackles, 4 total, and 1 QB hit. So
Yeah, I mean, he's 6'3", 250. This is his second season. Yeah, I liked him. I liked him a lot. And again, another guy that I hope we get to see more of, maybe a little higher in the depth chart as we continue on with preseason here. And I'll go with another guy that I thought looked good in another position that we've been talking about could be a little suspect. Lamar Jackson.
oh, good, because he was my next on my list too. I thought he played
Yeah,
really well,
Lamar Jackson really impressed me. He made a couple of really nice plays to break up some passes. Um,
and I love the play he got beat. I
mhm.
know he got beat, but him tracking the ball down, whipping his head around at the last moment to
Yeah,
not get the play, that is a professional football player move.
right,
That
right.
was astounding, great play. And he also raked a couple guys' hands where the ball could have been caught, but he raked it at the right time. He had
Yeah, he
really
played
good
a really good
timing.
game. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. And you say he got beat. I think he did initially get beat, but he
Well,
showed
yeah.
really good track down speed
Mm-hmm.
and was able to kind of get right back in there and make a play on the ball. And that was early in the game. Um,
And those plays happen. If you're a
hmm
corner one
Oh
on
yeah,
one, you're gonna get beat occasionally. JC
yep,
Horn and stuff like that. It's just what you do once you're beat helps out. Whether it's if you can't catch up to him and you trip him and a pass interference, sometimes that's the best play for a corner. I mean, but
yeah.
this way he tracked it
CJ
down, turned
Henderson's made a
his.
career on that.
I don't
No,
know
I,
what CJ Henderson has made his career on. I'm just gonna leave it
I don't even
at
know.
that.
CJ Henderson's still in the league. Um, yeah, so Lamar Jackson, and that's really a good sign, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he can continue to play well and be that top tier backup DB, that's important to have. So I was happy about that. Who else you got?
I opposite side of edge rusher. Even though his PFF grading is not very good, I thought DJ Johnson did a pretty solid job of sealing that
Mm,
edge. I saw him make some plays early. I'm kind of shocked that they graded him out so low, but I mean, I guess that's PFF for you, 51.9. But I felt like he played pretty solidly when he was in there. He only had 20 snaps, but I felt like he kept the edge rush and
yeah, yeah. I didn't notice him much, so I can't really speak to if I thought he looked great or not. But I didn't see him make any major mistakes. So um, man, I was just Johnny Hecker punted the ball 10 times. Johnny Hecker had 464 yards of punting in this game. That is wild. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to look for more positives here. Mevis made his only field goal, 41 yards. I'm wondering if the plan was to alternate him and Pinheiro every quarter, maybe. That's the only thing I can think of as to why he took that field goal and Pinheiro didn't. Um, but obviously there was only one shot. I thought Deshaun Jameson had a couple of plays as well.
yeah.
Again at that corner spot.
Overall, I mean, I thought the defense, the main guys on defense that we will see, played
Hmm.
well. I mean, they didn't have like the astronomical numbers or sacks or anything like that, but they did what Evero's defense did last year. Is just good, solid playing, and I
Yep.
think that's a really solid play by Evero that we were playing our down a string basically to New
Hmm.
England, but our defense was still there playing every down, it felt like.
Yeah, well, they said 33 players inactive for this
Yeah,
game.
it
32,
was
33 players. I mean,
crazy.
that's a string and a half. It seems like. So that's
Yeah.
how many snaps
But
did Trevin Wallace play? Do you have that?
Trevin
Because it
Wallace
was
played 28. And
okay.
I didn't really feel like he made I didn't see him. He
Yeah,
had 2 tackles, but
yeah, yeah. I was hoping that to kind of scout him a little more, but I'll have to go back and watch maybe some of the all 22 or something if they have that for preseason. I haven't even looked, but
last year they didn't. Just fair
yeah,
warning, because I
gotcha.
wanted to. Uh, so hats off to Evero and his guys. I mean, I feel like I can't negative anybody really on the defense. I mean, was there anyone?
I mean, not nobody that stood out as just being terrible. No,
Yeah, that it
I
just
wouldn't
felt
say.
like
No.
everyone
Certainly
played
not like
solid.
on offense. On offense, you could probably point to a handful of guys, but on defense, I thought it was pretty good. Even hey, Johnny Hecker and JJ Jansen both recorded a tackle. So
So special teams need to
even
step
special
up.
teams, even special teams did all right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you don't want that. You don't want to see that if you're the special teams
And Johnny Hecker's hit laid
coordinator.
him out was like, Ugh.
Yeah, Johnny Hecker was like too small, too small. I love that. All right, so I mean, a couple of positives to take away from the game, but
Show me
are we
more.
giving Jake excuse me, are we giving Jake Plummer any grace just for the fact that he is a rookie? Weather wasn't great. He's playing with all backups, playing behind a sorry offensive line. I mean, are we giving him any benefit of the doubt?
My benefit of the doubt is he's an undrafted rookie free agent starting a game against guys who were ones and twos. Again, not all of their ones were out there, so I don't want to
Right.
just be like, oh, he's playing against all backups. No. I mean, he had a couple nice throws, but he hopefully the game will slow down for him. I'm not going to write him
Hmm.
off on one preseason for an undrafted guy.
And that's why I ask because a lot of Panthers fans are.
Well,
I've seen a lot of Panthers. Oh, this good Plummer he needs to be cut immediately. Like he's just no shot. Okay, I mean, what did you expect from an undrafted rookie free agent? Like an undrafted rookie starting his first preseason game behind a second and third string O line, thrown to second and third stringers.
yeah.
Like, what did you expect?
I mean, yes, everybody would have loved the look of Joe Milton. Joe Milton came out
Sure,
there
Joe Milton looked
and
great.
looked. Oh wow, this guy
Yeah,
may have something special. We wanted to see Jack Plummer that, but Jack Plummer's not probably going to be anything special. He may be a solid backup in this league, and that's what you're hoping for him, in my opinion.
yeah. I mean, that's usually the ceiling of guys like this, right? Our journeyman, second string, third string practice squad quarterbacks.
The Tony Romos and Jake Delomes don't really happen, or
Right.
Kurt Warders don't typically happen.
Yeah, those are very much the exception to the rule.
Hmm.
I will give Jake Plummer a little bit of grace. I thought, again, he made a couple of nice throws that just weren't converted by his receivers. His line would look a lot better had some of those receptions been made. So, um, Luton, him coming in kind of late in the game, 7 of 9, but only 38 yards. His average was basically the same as Plummer's 4.2 to Plummer's 4.1. But he did move the ball down the field. They at least were able to get a field goal out of him at the end of the game there. So I don't know that we saw anything that makes us feel one way or another about either of those guys, if I'm being honest. Other
Uh,
than Jack Plummer's obviously not ready for prime time, right?
and honestly, I kind of expected that. I would have loved to have been like, "Oh wow," but I mean, it is what it is. Um, for most part of this game, it felt too much like last year and the year before, and it was devastating, just by the pure patheticness, pedestrian
Yeah.
offensive look. Like it just, oh,
Yeah,
I
and you don't want to get too down because it
no,
is preseason week 1, right? It is the very first game, but coming off of what we've come off of the last few seasons, and especially last season, which was I mean, 2 wins, and the you know even the wins weren't that impressive
no.
offensively, right? Um, Coming off that season with your new young offensive minded head coach to put up 3 points in a preseason game for sure, but putting up 3 points in a game, the first time we've seen these guys in in that situation, it's bad. It's just
It
bad. It
100%.
feels bad.
And that's what it does. It feels bad for us as fans who've been dealing with this for 2+ years. And it's just like, oh, can we ever have an offense that's somewhat fun to watch? The
Yeah.
defense could get fun, but the offense hasn't in so long.
Yeah.
Please.
And some of these decisions that were made in the offseason and not made in the offseason, right? They just feel like they're going to come back to haunt us. Like, for example, I'm hearing that Austin Corbett's just not looking great at center. Why you think you spend all this money on this offensive line and you're like, center, let's just throw Austin Corbett in there and see what happens.
That doesn't make sense. Like,
Yeah.
especially if he's not looking good. Now, the Panthers, we are slightly moving past the game, but
Hmm.
we've already signed another offensive lineman. We'll jump into it. Interior lineman Jack Anderson. Because, of course, we got injured throughout the game on O-line and stuff like that.
Yeah, they
Uh,
started seven. They only had seven healthy O
and
linemen to
two of
start the
them got
game. Two of
injured, I
them, yeah,
believe.
they lost two. So,
Cade Mays and who was the other one that got hurt?
yeah, good question.
I, I don't remember the other one,
Some
but
guy that was probably not going to make the team anyway.
yeah.
No, I
So
think he got hurt early in the game, whoever it was, and so it's possible that he could have been a defensive or a substitute guy, but I'm not sure who it was. I don't remember.
yeah, and also rookie defensive lineman Jaden Crumpty left with a high ankle sprain, and Badera Traro had a knee injury in the Cade Mays one. So
Yeah,
that's a lot.
that's a lot. Yeah. So this guy, Jack Anderson, he's a former seventh round pick, and he can play some center. He's also guard. So, again, another guy who's not a master of anything, but
I mean,
that's a lot of offensive linemen in the league are like that,
yeah.
so it's not that big of a deal. But again, this is just a camp body. It seems like, we'll see.
So man, I hope Dave Canales. I my biggest fear is Tepper blew a gasket after watching it and is now in their ear. Like, yes, I'm frustrated, but I don't want it to get to the coaches right now. I want the coaches to do their setup. I don't need Tepper overshadowing Canales and his crew.
Yeah, and let's be fair again to Canales. This is his first time, you know, calling a game as a head coach in the NFL. So there are going to be rookie mistakes that he makes, right? And I think not playing 33 people on your team is a rookie mistake. I think that you only have 3 preseason games. If you look around the league, most other teams seem to play their starters
Yep.
for at least a series or two, right? I think it's important to get that work out there, especially with a new system, right? And I understand the reason for not playing Bryce behind an offensive line that might not be looking so good in camp and does have some injury questions right now. But I think at some point you're gonna have to throw him out there. At some point he's gonna have to get some live reps in this system before the season starts. And you're having your joint practices. That's apparently what they're leaning hard on that. But if that doesn't look great, I hope that he's out there Saturday.
Oh yeah, 100%. I hope the joint practices. I hope either way they're out there a little bit Saturday.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I want this whole O line to show me that 7 players that played. There was a reason why they didn't want to put Bryce behind that O line, and I can see it right now. But
mm-hmm. Yeah,
we need to see the whole O line as fans. I mean, your stadium's going to be empty, Tepper, if
yeah.
we're not going to show anything in preseason, no glimpse of hope. It's going to be empty.
I mean, we saw what FanFest looked like, right?
Yeah.
Not a lot of people went down there on a Thursday night driving down to Clemson.
Uh,
Might have been a few reasons for that, but
my wife and I, when we first met, we bonded over the Panthers. And when on Thursday, when I was like, "Hey, it's a Panthers game," she's like, "I don't really want to watch it." Like, I mean, it's a preseason, and that makes sense. But
yeah,
after the past 2 years, she just doesn't want to. She,
it's unfortunate,
yeah,
that the fans and Sylvia was, I would call her a pretty diehard fan, right? Like she
yeah,
was a member of the Roaring Riot, went to games a lot. And now I think that she's not the only one who just has lost some of the interest
Yeah.
because it's not fun to root for a team like this. It's
No.
not fun to root for a franchise like this.
And it's not the past only 1 year. It's been
Yeah.
since he took over 4 or 5 years of just
Yeah.
pedestrian. Like our best season since he's taken over was what, the Teddy Bridgewater season?
Yeah. I mean, the Steve Wilkes season,
Yeah,
that the
yeah,
end
the
of that
Steven.
season.
But I
But
honestly think why Steve Wilkes did so well is, I bet you anything, is Tepper just gave him the reins as he was doing his head coaching search, because he was all into
yeah,
the
Tepper
coaching
wasn't,
search.
Tepper wasn't micromanaging because the season was already over, right?
Yeah,
Over according to Tepper. And yeah, Wilkes almost got us into the playoffs. So again, we could rehash all these decisions 1,000 times, but that is basically the only hope that we've had over the last 5 years
and that
of
was a
being a
fun little run.
contender. It was. It did. It revitalized a lot of people's fandom. And then Frank Reich comes in and just burns it all down.
Burns it all down.
So I don't know. Again, we'll see what happens. I'm still optimistic that Canales and Morgan as a duo are going to be a positive for the franchise moving forward. But we have yet to see proof. So we'll continue to keep an eye out and hope that happens. But all right,
Yeah.
any other kind of thoughts here, Jerry?
I'm really hoping this was just a quick, just a little
blip.
blip on the radar, and in a couple weeks we won't even think about it. Either way, probably in a couple weeks we won't think about it. But if we're 10 games in and the offense looks like it did last year, we're going to be like, oh man, we knew it in the preseason too.
That's how it was last year, right?
Exactly.
And even with Matt Rule, like we keep hearing over and over, that's at the preseason, it's vanilla, we're not going to show anything, and then the regular season comes along and it's the exact same thing. Like it's the same plays, and you're still not. What are you waiting for? You waiting for the playoffs to show, your good plays? Like, come on, let's see something. Who gives a crap? We got people flying drones over practice. Like, what is going on with this franchise? Like, come on, let's have some fun. Let's get out here and make fans want to watch your games. Make people want to come pay $200, $300, $400, $500 to go to games. Now, I don't want to pay that kind of money to go to a game right now and watch the team get their butts whooped. Like, that's not interesting to me.
No, not at all.
That's a bad way to spend money. That's poor financial decision. Like, I don't want to do that.
That's a lot of money for most people to fork over. I mean, if it's just me and my wife Sylvia going, I mean, that's still $200-$300. If we take our daughter, that's $400. I mean, it's
and those are for nosebleeds usually, right? Like, you're not even sitting in the lower bowl with good seats. You're sitting high up in the sun. So, and again, I think they raised prices a little bit this year. I'm seeing these commercials all the time, especially during the preseason game, for PSLs. Like, come buy PSLs, buy season tickets. As little as like $28 a month or something. Okay, well, I don't want to sit all the way up at the top to watch this team get their asses kicked every week. Show me something.
Yes.
Show me something. Give me a reason to come.
Yeah, and those PSLs, $28 a month. You still have to buy the tickets too. It's not $28 a month. That's it.
Right.
So.
Oh man. Well, we'll be back in a few days to be more positive and talk about the next preseason.
I know it took us all of one preseason game to get as disgruntled as last year.
Listen, we at least were able to touch on some positive things.
No, the defense. I'm very excited to watch the defense. I know the offense is going to be a run first, heavy run offense. I also heard that the Dallas Cowboys are sniffing around Miles Sanders, watching how everything pans out here. So
put him in. Let him run some preseason. Let's get his trade value up.
I was gonna say, so he probably has some trade value right now. I mean, obviously his contract's pretty big, so they'll probably want us to eat some of the cash. But I mean, with Brooks in the wings,
yeah,
I
in
mean,
a season where you're probably looking at 5, 6 wins max anyway.
if we could get like a third round pick,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to eat part of that contract. That's just a
Yeah.
bad contract. I
But you could
mean,
eat it this season,
yeah,
right? And then next season you're coming in fresh and Brooks healthy. I mean, that's if they could unload him, that would be smart. I
yeah.
hope they're able
I
to.
mean, that's what you have to look at. I do think he kind of got a slightly unfair shake, but I also think when we come up with our season predictions, you'll hear my thoughts on Chuba. So
Oh, okay.
I've had this one in
I'm
my head
excited
for the
about that.
past like 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. All right. What do you think about, Panthers give up 2 firsts, Miles Sanders, Jack Plummer for CD Lamb? About that.
Why are you throwing Jack Plummer in this?
Just, just to get him out of here, basically.
I thought you were giving him some grace.
uh, yeah, well, I mean, if I get CD Lamb, Yeah, I mean, Jerry, he might lose Dak.
I mean, honestly, I would be fine with I not 2 first. I don't think I'd be fine with 2 first. I'd probably do a future first, not this year's first, and
Yeah, this year's first could again be number one.
something else. Throw in Terrace Marshall Jr. or something like that.
Real quick question. That was just kind of a fake trade, just because CD Lamb has been, not there. They
Oh,
don't seem in
CD
any
Lamb's
hurry
an
to
awesome
sign.
player. I would
Right?
take
Yeah,
him
yeah,
in a heartbeat. That's
yeah, yeah,
not the real
yeah.
question. It's
That's
the
that's not actually
compensation.
going to happen. Right? It's not going to happen either way. Um, so watching preseason this year and seeing these young quarterbacks like CJ Stroud and Caleb Williams, looking good, like objectively looking really good. Uh, what's your pulse check on Bryce right now? I know we didn't see Bryce, but those were 2 quarterbacks that we could have had, right? We could have had either one.
Uh, I think I'm still holding out hope for Bryce. I think the simple fact of the matter is we didn't get to see Bryce last year with any competence.
Yeah.
Competent coaching staff, O-line, scheming. So I'm kind of marking this as his rookie season. I know it's not. And the thing about Bryce, too, is I also think we have to fit him into a system that fits
Mm-hmm.
his strengths. Because you can't expect him to go back there and just be Peyton Manning. He's not Peyton Manning. Well, he has similar features of being able to dip and dunk, but I don't think
Yeah.
he's able to chuck the ball constantly downfield. I don't think
Yeah.
his arm strength is spectacular. It's good, but it's not that type.
Every time I see CJ Stroud do something exciting, and every time I see, a report of Caleb Williams or even watching him in the first preseason game, a lot of things I don't like about Caleb Williams, but on the field, man, he looks special. It just worries me, and it makes me feel a little sad because there are just some limitations with Bryce that he's never going to be able to get over. And
Pun intended.
if you don't have that perfect system, like you said, then I don't know what Bryce is. So I'm hoping that that's what we're building here. But I gotta say, for me, the optimism is waning a bit.
I would hold off until at least the season. I know it's preseason; it's tough.
Yeah,
Um,
it's tough. And it's tough when we don't see him, right?
yeah,
You don't see
and I
him,
keep
and you see
hearing
the
that
other
he
guys.
is getting better in training camp every day. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he hasn't looked bad. It's just so. All right, we got less than a minute left. We want to thank everyone for listening. If you like the show, please let your friends know. Please follow us on Twitter at MailMixPodcast. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at mailbag@mailmixpodcast.com. Leave us a 5-star review with a comment on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it on the show. Please like and subscribe on YouTube.
As I said, we'll be back in a few days to preview the next preseason game. And until then, everybody stay safe out there and keep bounding.